Hi, it's Danny Borris again. Uh, as you know by now, I collect model toy soldiers, and this video represents number 14 in the collection. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe. The figures can be made available for sale, and I can be reached at danielborris@yahoo.ca. The first grouping here is actually, to me, a very impressive one. It's the Alamo. It brings together 4 diorama sections and 27 figures from 2 manufacturers, Britain's and King & Country. The challenge is in fact to turn these 2 manufacturers' work into a cohesive whole. The Alamo was a proud turning point in Texan history, supported by volunteers from all over, including Tennessee. In 1836, the Mexicans under Santa Anna attempted to take back territory they believed was theirs. The Alamo stood in their way, and the defenders died to a man. The diorama shows 4 of the main protagonists: Santa Anna, Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, and Ben Travis. Each little grouping tells a story. Santa Anna urges his men through the main gate. Travis blocks them, and a cannon awaits those who enter. Bowie prepares to defend himself from his sick bed. Crockett rallies the Texans. The remainder defend the high ground from attack. The next set that we have represents 3 matching bands. They're all limited editions. 2 of them are William Britain's limited editions, and they represent the Anglian Regiment in white uniforms and the blue-coated lifeguards marching on foot as the second band. The third is a set that are made up from 2 Marlborough miniatures sets depicting the Welsh Fusiliers. Total of figures in the group are 36-foot figures. The next set piece shows Britain's ceremonial figures. This group is an example of figures often bought by tourists. This, of course, has not stopped me having them in my collection. First, there are 2 Canadian Mounties from a company named Spirit of Empire, a Canadian toy soldier company. Then there are 3 lifeguards by Britons representing the Blues and the Royals. There is also a kernel of lifeguards. Next, we have a group of pipers and the box set of all the Queen's men, which represents everything from household cavalry to beefeaters to grenadier guards, even the British bobby. Finally, we have a set consisting of 2 household cavalry, 2 beefeaters, and 2 grenadier guards. This set, although metal, has plastic accoutrements: the bearskins, the pikes, the breastplates, and the rifles. I bought these as a commemorative set at the time of Princess Di and Prince Charles's wedding. Total figures in this grouping, 25 foot, 5 mounted. This next set piece is again Donald Featherstone's figures, and they represent the Royalist army during the English Civil War. The English Civil War was fought between 1642 and 1651. The Royalists, or Cavaliers, remained loyal to the crown, while their enemies, the parliamentarians, wished the royalty to be dismantled. This eventually included the chopping off of the king's head. Fought in the era of pike and shot, there were strong cavalry arms to both sides. The foot soldiers were mainly musketeers and pikemen. This grouping shows two large units of Scots who fought on both sides during the Civil War, and a massive cavalry regiment led by Prince Rupert. This period was one of Donald Featherstone's favourites. The figures are largely minifigs and consist of 121 mounted figures, 400 foot and 8 cannon. This next grouping consists of two setups, really, and they show the two skirmishes in the American Civil War. One of them has Robert E. Lee looking on, and sadly you see that we revert in warfare to having almost children, young boys, fighting for either or both sides. It's the same today, I'm afraid. The West Virginia Military Academy soldiers were children, really, and they're faced, in the first case, by Zouaves and the Iron Brigade from the Union side. And in the second grouping, we are seeing once again a lot of young boys, really, who were trained to fight and found themselves often at the wrong end of a bayonet. This time they're faced by mounted and dismounted Union cavalry. This next grouping is of the Royal Horse Artillery and a Dennis Britain set. These were produced to celebrate the centenary of William Britain's. Several new sets were released in 1992, it being the 100-year anniversary of the company. They included this Royal Horse Artillery set, which has long been a favourite in the hollow cast range. A set was also released as chosen by Dennis Britain, the grandnephew of the founder. They consisted of the 13th Hussars and 7th Fusiliers, and were packed in a two-tiered box as an homage to the past. These new figures were all solid metal, of course. Finally, in this grouping, there are 4 cavalrymen of the Middlesex Yeomanry. The grouping comprises 1 artillery piece and limber, 6 horse team and 3 outriders, 9 mounted cavalry. The 10 foot figures that represent the Welsh Fusiliers are not in this photograph. However, I have them available. Next grouping are Britain's hollow cast guardsmen. I bought the 8 hollow cast grenadiers in the greatcoats, which were first produced in 1930 from Mr. Dillon's Antiques in Toronto. I've had the 2 hollow cast grenadiers in the sentry boxes forever. All are in beautiful condition. No one has ever unpacked or touched the guards in the sentry boxes other than me. They're mint, like new. How many people can claim such a thing and prove it with mint boxes and tissue paper still showing the crease made on it by the sentry boxes when they were wrapped? Quite lovely. They are 66 years new. Total pieces in the group, 10 foot, 2 sentry boxes. This next grouping is once again Donald Featherstone's English Civil War figures. They show the parliamentarians. Known as the Roundheads, they were led by Oliver Cromwell. they eventually vanquished the Royalists and ended the monarchy in England, only to have it return in 1651. Pike and shot period, the figures are minifigs. The cavalry tended to be heavily armoured and were known as Ironsides. This set consists of 133 mounted figures, 427 foot and 9 cannon. Donald has inscribed in the book that he gave to me regarding wargaming with the pike and shot, I really enjoyed wargaming this period. This next set piece represents the Battle of Culloden and the 45 Rebellion, the end of the 45 Rebellion. The Battle of Culloden effectively ended the Jacobite Rebellion. These Highlanders that were not killed in battle were hunted down and executed. I think Bonnie Prince Charlie's leadership was a disgrace, and even visiting the field of Culloden has not quite gotten me over the whole thing. Mind you, it was only 260 years ago. I'll get over it eventually, I'm sure. This set piece is made up of John Jenkins figures. The English and their lowland Scottish and German allies made good use of the bayonet. The Highland charge was reputed, when made with the Highlanders brandishing their claymores and broadswords, to be like a cavalry charge. The grouping consists of 10-foot figures. This next set is of rare William Britain's Highlanders. The first set, indeed the first limited edition set from Britain's after the reintroduction of Merrill figures, which ceased in 1964. That was the end of the Holocaust. This new set, 5183, the Camerons, is a well sought after set, having been produced only for export to the United States. The second set are also Camerons, this time in the white overseas service helmet. A Britain's Holocast set in mint condition, which comes in its original Whistock box. It consists of 8 figures. Finally, we have another limited edition, set 5188, showing the Seaforth Highlanders, produced in 1986, 12 figures including the colour party, total in the group, 32 pieces.